right now.
Okay. All right. Well, good to see everyone, and glad to be with everybody tonight. How's everyone doing?
Consi-
Fine.
Considering the smoke, we're just smoking 14 cigarettes a day.
Doing
Well,
well, doing well.
well,
We're gonna claim well.
Yes. So Portland has gotten some of that California wildfires smoke.
no, we got our own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, we have the worst air quality in the world, they say, right
Oh
now.
my goodness.
Yeah. So we go out, and the air quality was such that if you go out without a mask, what some of us do, we're
Uh-huh.
smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
That's crazy. And then I was hearing that the masks don't really do that much for the smoke because the particulates are smaller than the mask.
Right. So
Yeah,
how can it be helpful to a virus then?
that was the point that people brought up as well. They were like, well, if it doesn't help for smoke, the particulates for a virus are smaller too than the mask hole. So I don't know. I think it's more that the medium that which is saliva and spit and things like that is what carries the virus. So even though the virus is smaller, if you can stop uh, splatter from getting to your mouth, then there's a barrier, you know. So perhaps that's the reasoning. So there's a lot of questions about
Yeah.
all of this. So um, which we'll get into tonight, really, to talk about how to deal with it. Um, if it comes about and how to stay well. And I'm glad, that all of us on the call appear to be well. And um, I know a lot of people have been affected by it. So since when I first did this video in June, talking about what to do, things have gotten worse for some people and better for others. So we want to make sure that we are prepared and really able to withstand anything that is coming our way. So I'll kind of jump into it, and welcome to all the new folks on in the room. It's good to see you. So did anyone get a chance to watch my video about what fighting coronavirus?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have one. That's good. All right. So you guys are welcome.
Yes, I too watched it. So
Okay,
you have
great.
two. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Because I'm going to cover some of the things that I covered um, in that video here, so we can just talk about, staying well, and what we can do if you unfortunately do get coronavirus, what to do so that you are one of the people who survive it, as most of us are. And that's the good news, is that, it's less than 1% mortality rate at this point, which means the vast majority of people who get it will survive. So that's the good news. Doesn't mean we take things lightly, but we should take the good news as the good news, because we don't talk enough about the people who have recovered. So many people have recovered from this, and I would want all of us to be among that number if we do get it, which is very possible. So even people who have been very old, 90s, have recovered. People who've had coexisting illnesses have recovered. So it does not have to be a death sentence, is the message that we want to get across, that you can recover, and there are things you can do to get your immune system ready so that you won't even know really you have it if you get it. That's really the best case scenario, is not to get it at all, of course. The second best is you get it and you have virtually no symptoms. And if you get it and virtually have no symptoms, that really means that your immune system is working optimally and it's doing what it is designed to do. I've come in contact with people over the years with the flu many times, and I've never gotten the flu. I'm sure I've probably been in contact with people with coronavirus and I haven't gotten it at this point, or had any symptoms or anything like that. So, and I prepare food for people on a weekly basis. So I'm really taking my health importantly because I don't want to, get anyone else sick. And I'm preparing food. I want to be able to continue to do that and not have that interruption in service. And who wants to get sick, period. So, so some of the things that I've been doing to keep my immune system up, I'll share with you. Just as a little, to add a little bit to the intro, just about who I am. I am a holistic nutritionist and health coach, holistic health expert. I was in my prior career engineer, and I switched over to holistic nutrition. And I got my master's and PhD in engineering and undergraduate in computer science, but I switched over to holistic nutrition after I healed myself from cancer, and naturally with food, plant-based diet, with supplements and prayer, meditation, visualization, basically a lifestyle change, a holistic lifestyle change. I was able to heal myself. And then I decided to switch careers and do something I would prefer to do. And that was helping other people get well and stay well and use a natural approach to living. And so that is how I got into this field and doing what I'm doing right now. So, so over the years, I've learned, especially during my year of recovery from cancer, I studied a lot about the immune system because the immune system is everything. It handles everything. So the immune system is what healed my body of cancer. Immune system is what heals you when you have a cut. Immune system is what heals everything. So it is at the core of our health. And so there are things that we can do. So I'm like, if it can heal cancer, it can certainly take care of coronavirus. So that's one thing to know, is that, your immune system is fully equipped to deal with things that are coming our way, including viruses of any sort. So once you know that, then what you want to know is, well, how can I make sure my immune system is not impaired? And so the way you want to do that is a few things that I will cover shortly, but it is empowering it is getting out of the way of it, and it is taking actions and foods and supplements so that it is working at its optimal state. So I will share my screen to talk a little bit about some of those tips and techniques. Okay, so our COVID-19 immune system boosters. Now, most of this works for most things, colds, flus, and as we go into the quote unquote, I say quote unquote flu season, you can use many of these same approaches to not get the flu either. I know some people do flu shots and all that. My flu shot is wheatgrass or apple cider vinegar and ginger, or a shot of something, or a green juice. That is what I do. I do not take the flu shot. And I've never gotten the flu, except the one time that I took the flu shot. So yeah, like 3 days later, I got the flu after taking the flu shot. So that was it for me. I had never gotten it up until that point. And I decided, they were talking about it at work. Everybody's getting the flu shot. I was like, fine, I'll get the flu shot. And then lo and behold, I get the flu. And everyone is explaining to me that that's not possible for you to get the flu because the flu virus is dead in the shot, in the vaccine or whatever. But I'm like, my body reacted as it reacted with all the symptoms of the flu. So, which I wasn't expecting. So I've never taken it since then, and I've never had the flu since then. I rarely get colds. I rarely get sick. I would always say, when I was working a 9 to 5, after I found out about how to heal myself and all that, I would never have a good excuse for wanting to skip work, because I was like, everybody knows I'm not sick. So what am I gonna say? Well, I can't call in sick, really, because that's really not true. Because I was the person in the office who would give everybody, basically a prescription of what to do when they were sick. So I had to go on to work when I didn't want to. But now I work for myself. So if I don't feel like going to work, I just stay in bed. So, okay, so let's get on with it. I'm also a vegan chef because part of what I had to learn how to do was to cook for myself in a different way to make healthy food taste good. And so through that process, I was already a good cook, just having learned from my mom, my grandmother, but just through that process, I really got good at making healthy food taste really good. So that's what I do now. I have a food delivery service right now for the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, and Albuquerque, because I have ties in Albuquerque, and then we'll be expanding from those areas as well. So part of what I do, which I love to do. So basically, with your immune system, you don't have to do a lot except get out of the way, because it already knows what to do. Usually if our immune system isn't working at its optimum level, it's because we are doing something that's impeding it. So once we stop doing those things, and then we can take things that enable it better to build itself back up, then it's able to do its job and handle whatever comes your way. So taking the holistic approach, which means a natural approach to healing, natural methods. So that means using foods, using natural supplements, using herbs, all these things, things that are pictured here, aloe vera, lemon, cucumber, all those kind of things to heal. That's the holistic approach. And that's really the best approach, because when you start getting into synthetic medications and things like that, they usually have some side effect because they're not natural and they've been altered. And so sometimes you end up worse off because now you're on medications that cause the need for another medication that cause issues. I've worked with people who have had liver problems, who didn't have a drinking problem or anything like that, but they simply were on a medication that harmed their liver. Now they're dealing with having to deal with the liver. So, but if we had found a better way to deal with the initial problem, the liver would have never been damaged, because when you're using natural methods, generally you don't harm your liver the way synthetic chemical medications harm the liver and kidneys and other things like that. Now, I'm not saying don't take your medications, because if you do nothing, you're going to just get worse across the board. But if you're on a medication, your goal should be to get off of it as quickly as possible to minimize any damage. So when we're talking about building up our immunity through food, it means taking away the things that cause problems with the immune system. So sugar is one of the #1 things that suppresses the immune system. So when I was recovering from cancer, that's one thing that had to go to all processed white sugar. It was just really off of the plate, because that is that sets you up. I remember I was on a travel with a friend, and she was catching a cold, and then she ordered a big banana split with all the fixings, and I was like, with ice cream, and I was like, oh, this is the worst thing you could eat. And the next day she couldn't make it out of bed. She was so sick because basically what she did was give the bacteria and things that were trying to take over her body more troops. So you can look at your body like a battlefield. And so, this bacteria and cold bacteria and viruses was trying to get in, and her immune system was like, okay, we're trying to hold off, trying to hold off. And then you just pour sugar, and it's like multiplying the troops times 100. And so anything that was being held off just got squashed. And so it made the cold come on that much faster and that much more strong, because you basically broke down the wall of your immune system that was holding things back. You just decimated it. And then it gave like free reign for the troops to just ride on in and take over. So that's what sugar does to the immune system. So it takes it way down. So the worst thing you can do when you're getting sick or feeling tired or feeling like a sore throat or feeling just like achy is to have sweets, sugar. You can have fruit, but you don't want to do dried fruit, and you don't want to do, super, anything that's been in syrup or anything like that. Whole fruit you can still eat because it's got antioxidants and things. But when you're eating white sugar or syrup or any processed sugar like that, even like agave and things, you don't want to be having that when you are sick or feeling like you're about to get sick. It's off the table. So during my cancer recovery, I took away all sweets. I remember having like 2 bites of a cake once the whole year, because I was like, I am not going to be suppressing my immune system. But I ate lots of fruit during that time period. So sugar off the table. So as we go into this quote, flu season, take sugar way down, way down. So you can still have sweets, but you want to sweeten it with fruit and things like that. You can have a little things that are sweetened with agave. I just made a smoothie with, well, it's kind of gone now, but it was a chocolate smoothie because I was feeling like chocolate, but it was raw cacao powder, which is made from the beans. And I put bananas and dates as the sweetener, and I put a ton of greens in it as well. And it was really, really good, and some berries. So, and then you have the chocolate. So it tasted really good, but there's nothing bad about it, but it kind of gets rid of that sweets craving, which is something you can do if you crave sugar a lot, is to eat more fruit and to drink more water. If you have a big problem with craving sugar, water and fruit are the best. And then you can do some dried fruit, like 1 or 2 dates will basically help with the sugar craving as well. Or you can make like a nice smoothie like this, and it'll cut the sugar craving too. So then the next thing that really decimates the immune system is going to be your dairy products, butter, cheese, milk, any of that, as well as meats. So the dairy is going to create a ton of mucus in your system. And that is not a good thing, especially when we're dealing with a virus that makes it difficult to breathe. The last thing you want is excess mucus, because then that's where bacteria and things can grow and the virus gets more powerful and things like that. And then you have fluid buildup and all of this. So generally, when you introduce a foreign object into your body produces inflammation to insulate you from it. So it produces extra fluid to dilute the toxins that are coming into your body so it doesn't kill you. So because milk is a foreign substance, that's how your body reacts. You start getting mucus and you have the sinus and thing, and sometimes you sound very nasally and all of that. When I accidentally have dairy, I immediately get a sinus mucus reaction, and I know that, oh, something had dairy in it, because my body is sensitive to this at this point, and it reacts immediately. So you really want to take cheese, butter, milk, any type, goat cheese, any type of fluid that is meant for a baby animal should not be going into human people. Just gonna say it like that, right? So unless you are baby cow, which none of us are, as I can see, cheese and milk are not for you. And there's so many alternatives. So many, because I know this is a big thing because everyone says, oh, well, I don't drink milk. And that is shown in the stats that milk sales have gone down by like over $1 billion in the last year, which is awesome. But cheese is staying put, okay? Because people are addicted to that. And the reason they're more addicted to cheese is because cheese is concentrated milk. So it has more of the addictive hormone in it than anything else. It also has more salt and fat. So you have two very addictive components in cheese, which is salt and fat. And then you have the actual casein, which is physically addicting as well. So that is why people are so addicted to cheese and don't think they could ever give it up, like I used to think as well. So I've been there, done that. I was one of those people who are like, I could never give up cheese. Everyone who's given it up has always said that. So if you said that, that means you're halfway to giving it up. So you can give up the cheese. And there are many, many alternatives. Some of my favorites are Veal Life has really great melty cheese. Follow Your Heart has great sliced cheese. This is all plant-based cheeses. Let's see, and then there's Kite Hill has cream cheese and sour cream. So there's really no excuse that you have some kind of an animal milk in your refrigerator at any point. There's no excuse. So if you have it in there, throw it out, go to Whole Foods, go to any health food store in Portland and get a plant-based cheese and stop putting an object from a foreign animal into your body because you're not a baby cow. And so it's filled with growth hormones, which trigger cancer growth. It's filled with all kinds of stuff. So just cheese off the plate. Milk, meat also causes inflammation in the body, especially if you're, it's very processed meats. There's no such thing as hormone-free meat or milk because every animal has hormone in it. That just means it hasn't been added to it. So we want to stay away from those things because that is what impairs the immune system. So that brings us to the other part of this chart is a nice bowl of healthy, colorful fruits, veggies, and whole grains. Avocados, for example, have a lot of nice fat. So if you're trying to replace cheese and things, you kind of lean towards some avocado and coconut to replace that fat and satiation in the diet. Olives also are very good for that. Instead of using a lot of olive oil, you want to actually use olives because they have a lot of nutrients and they're very satisfying. Sun-dried tomatoes also give this meaty texture, salty, meaty texture. Things like quinoa are a complete protein, so they'll help fill you up, and the whole grains and oatmeal and things like that. You just got to find a way to put them together so that it tastes really good and that's interesting, which is what I do. So I have lots of resources on the website for that. So this is kind of playing on that. Either your food every time you're eating it increases or reduces the inflammation. And so most plant-based diets are anti-inflammatory diets. So this is the way you want to go, and staying away from the sodas, the candy, the chips, the fries, all of that. And it's also shown that it brings down, there are markers that you can see inflammation in the body and that you can take. And they've shown that plant-based diets within 2 weeks brings down inflammation markers by 30% just in 2 weeks. And that's because of the high antioxidant levels, which stops the breakdown of corrosion of cells in our body. And it's because we're also fortifying it with fiber and things that help take inflammatory things out of the body. So to see a reduction by 30% in 2 weeks is quite remarkable. Alkalinity. So this is why plant foods work. Okay, so and why they heal the body, because most of your plant-based foods are alkaline. And so that basically our body is on a scale of a pH and balance of acid to alkaline, right? And our body wants to be at about 7.2 all the time, 7.2, 7.4, right? So when you are eating lots of alkaline foods, the body's happy. It's like, hey, 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 party over here. We can stay alkaline because we're getting tons of good alkaline fruits and veggies and water and whole grains, and we are good. So staying at 7.2 to 7.4 is easy peasy. But if you start eating a lot of refined white sugar, refined white flour, eggs and cheese, let's say you have an egg McMuffin and coffee for breakfast, your body's like, okay, here we go. Now it's got to go find things in your system to bring down the acid that you just gave it, because coffee is acidic, sugar is acidic, white bread is acidic, eggs are acidic, cheese is acidic. So you just gave an acid bomb to your body, and now it has to go and neutralize that. So it does that by taking excess fluids, taking nutrients like calcium from the blood and things to balance out that acidity. And over time, if you keep doing that, it starts robbing nutrients that your body needs to keep you from getting too acidic. And then you'll have a nutrient deficiency, and then you'll have other problems because of that nutrient deficiency. So you really want to eat more plant foods because they're alkaline and your body gets to do what it needs to do. They're also full of antioxidants. There's very little antioxidants in meat products, almost none. So when you're eating antioxidants, that's what slows down the cell breakdown, which slows down aging and slows down disease development and all that stuff. And it also takes care of free radicals. So free radicals are introduced in the body from breathing, especially if you're breathing smoky air. It's from exercising a lot, which we still need to do, and just eating certain foods that are bad. It introduces free radicals. But if you have enough antioxidants take care of the free radicals and get them out of your body, especially if you're eating foods with fiber. It binds with the free radical and you poop out those free radicals. But if you're not going to the bathroom every day or enough because you're not getting enough fiber, then the free radicals are like, party over here. Okay, so we've got to, eat high fiber foods. And high fiber does not necessarily mean Metamucil and all these things. It just means whole grains, bread like whole wheat bread, whole rye bread, whole oats, just steel cut oats. It means apples, it means pears, it means celery, it means greens, kale, collards, whatever. That's fiber. You don't have to do these fake fiber pills to get fiber. And then phytonutrients, which means phyto means plants. So it's plant nutrients, more than 25,000. I'm sure that number is even low, that you find only in plants. And those things are what helps the body heal and gives your immune system all its ability to do what it knows how to do. So this is why plant foods heal, because they have all of these things. And on the other hand, before we even get to that, meat and dairy has zero fiber, okay? Processed flour almost has zero fiber, very little. So then you're just eating something that now requires extra fiber for you to push it through. It usually also has very little water in it, where fruits and vegetables have plenty of water, so they just slide right through your system. But when you're eating meat, cheese, and bread, like an Egg McMuffin or a burger, it's dry, there's no fiber, and now it's like a brick. So you have to then rely on any other fruits and vegetables and water you drank to get that through your system. And it's full of free radicals. And it has no antioxidants, almost none. And so you can see the difference between the two. Okay, so getting into supplementation. So we want to rely on our diet to give us what we need, but during these times, and if you're not eating perfectly, it's okay to use supplements to help. So there are supplements that have been very beneficial, that have been shown to help you fight off diseases, colds, and flus like coronavirus. So vitamin C is at the top of the list. So everybody thinks of oranges when you think vitamin C. Do not drink orange juice to get vitamin C because orange juice is too sweet. You really want to just eat an orange or two or three because it has all the fiber and things with it. You know, very little you could juice, but not a ton of orange juice because you're going to get a lot of sugar without the fiber. But foods that are high in vitamin C also are kiwi and bell pepper, very high in those two things. So you can snack on bell peppers and hummus. Like I like red and yellow bell peppers with hummus, or cucumber up your vitamin C intake. But you can take vitamin C powder or capsules as well, you know, anywhere from 1,000 milligrams on up. So vitamin D3 is next. So a lot of the studies were showing that most people who died with coronavirus had very little to no vitamin D3, or very little, low on vitamin D3. So vitamin D3 is a hormone that we get from the sun, and most people don't get enough. So it is important to take a vitamin D3 supplement, not just for every day, but especially for coronavirus. So even if you're not dealing with that, vitamin D3 is something you should take on about 5,000 international units a day. But it's especially important right now. But this is one of the supplements everybody should be taking all the time, because the physicians that I work with say that everybody who is not taking a supplement is low on D3. So you can get a plant-based D3, vegan D3, and just take that 5,000 international units a day. Zinc has been one of those things that helps cut colds short and viruses short by taking it at the very first sign of any type of irritation or cold or flu. So you really got to be in touch with your body and know what the symptoms are for you when you're starting to get sick. Most of us get tired first and feel worn out before we actually get sick. And then some of us start getting this little scratchy, just a slight tingle in the throat. And many of us just ignore that and go ahead and doing what we're doing. But if you're in tune with your body, you're like, oh, this is a sign. This is a big warning sign saying, pay attention. And if you pay attention right now, then you're not going to have to go through this whole cycle of sickness. So if the first sign of feeling tired, overwhelmed, sluggish, or any tickle of any type in your throat or mucus forming, you take your vitamin C, you take your zinc, you go to bed early, take an extra dose of vitamin D3, drink a ton of water, and go to bed and get like 10 hours of sleep. You should not get sick. This is what works for me every single time. I haven't been sick in years. So the B vitamins are the other things that we need to make sure we're up on. So B vitamins get drained when we're under a lot of stress and other things, and we're not eating very balanced. So you can take a V vitamin complex that has like about 5 of the B vitamins in it, which would be good. If you're not taking a multivitamin, if you're taking a whole food multivitamin, it'll probably have the B vitamins in there. But if you're not, you should take a V vitamin complex for now to get your immune system at its optimal state. A whole food multivitamin, or food-based, means it's made from food as opposed to chemicals. If your multivitamin has food coloring, it's got magnesium stearate, it's not a good one. So any fake, if it says Blue Lake #3 or red whatever, it's no good. I would just, honestly, I would trash it. But so I would get a nice organic whole food vitamin, like made by like Garden of Life or My Kind Organics. You want to spend the money on the vitamins that you're going to be taking every day. This is not a time to be cheap, is when it deals with your vitamins. So make the investment in yourself on that. And some of them aren't that expensive. So you can find that there's a lot of liquid ones too, if you don't like pills. Probiotics are another thing that keeps you well, because most illness starts in the gut. And so if your gut flora is off, then you're more likely to get sick. So another thing that I take when I start feeling the first sign of sick is probiotics. I take an extra dose because I know if I can get my gut health and keep regular in the bathroom, then I'm going to be better off. and that helps your immune system. So probiotics, and making sure it's a vegan probiotic, that they're not using milk as a derivative in the probiotic, is important. So probiotics, you can take that every day as well. Other things that have probiotics in it are like kimchi or sauerkraut, you know, like a good sauerkraut, not in the can, like in the refrigerated section of the store, that kind of thing. Um, Kombucha, those things have good probiotics in it. Um, and then olive leaf extract is great when you, especially if you can find it in a liquid spray. It's very high in antioxidants, olive leaf is. So again, you get that first sign of tickle, spray, spray, spray. You should knock that right out and drink water and go to bed. You don't drink water right after the spray. Drink your water first, spray, 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 and go to bed. I mean, I keep saying go to bed because your immune system does its work when you are sleeping. A lot of the work is done then, and you don't want to eat a heavy meal right before bed because then your body's going to be processing that meal instead of fixing all the stuff that it wants to get to. So your body prioritizes what it has to do, and if you just gave it a big burger and fries to digest, it's not going to have time or energy to get to fixing the cold and bacteria that just got entered into your system. So eat light, but eat when you're feeling sick. Fluids are best. Juicing is a great time if you're starting to feel sick, is to juice. A green juice that's got like ginger, kale, or garlic, anything like that. The ginger, the garlic, turmeric root, all those are great things to put in a juice, especially, and lemon or lime when if you're feeling sick, or if you just want to give yourself a boost every week because we're in the times we're in, every other day or so, have a green juice and just stay up on it with some ginger, turmeric, and your body will be like celebrating. Apple cider vinegar is another one of those things I always keep in my refrigerator, not my refrigerator, in my cabinet. So I use it as a seasoning, but I also use it in case I ever get a sore throat or upset stomach or anything like that. It just takes it right away. You gargle with it. The key is with sore throats is to never actually get a full sore throat. It's like once the sore throat gets hold, it's like, it's got you, right? So if you get it at that first tickle and wipe it out, you generally won't get sick, or your flu or virus will pass so quickly. So just don't be lazy when you start feeling sick. You got to act immediately. So have this stuff on hand. Apple cider vinegar stays in your cabinet like forever. So does the olive leaf extract, the zinc, all these things. You can just have your little pantry of immune boosters ready to go. So there's no delay. And then oil of oregano is really powerful in getting rid of viruses, colds, flus, and all that kind of thing. So oil of oregano is super strong, right? Very, very strong, and it burns. So you don't want to just put it on your tongue or under your tongue because you'll be like, you'll wish you hadn't done that. So you want to take it in a little bit of juice, like, even if it's I usually take a little bit of the smoothie in a spoon and put 2 drops of the oregano oil and take it there, and then drink some more smoothie behind it because the taste is very strong. So, because you don't want to, especially if dealing with children, you don't want to burn them by giving them a drop right on their tongue or something. You can give it to children, just, be careful, 1 drop. For most people, 2 drops. If you're starting to feel sick, like 2 drops 3 times a day for a few days should take care of it. And I would do that for like 10 days just to make sure it's out of whatever's trying to get into your system gets out. So I don't take it all the time. I kind of save it for when I feel like I'm run down, and I'll do oregano oil. But you can take it a drop a day or something as a maintenance if you want. It's a very powerful antioxidant. The other one that's not on here that I use a lot is grapefruit seed extract, which also kills viruses, a lot of different viruses, and bacteria as well, which you can also use to wash your fruits and vegetables. So grapefruit seed extract is another one that you can add. It's called Agricept or L-Agricept, but and then it says grapefruit seed extract. So you'll find it under that name. So Agricept, Agricept. Agricept, it's L-agricept, or grapefruit seed extract. So they're both the same thing. So these are the things that I keep on hand, and I feel like I'm ready for whatever. Okay, so when I have these, and you know, and then give or take, there might be some others, but that's always in my cabinet. So anytime I'm like, oh, this something's up, and I keep other things too, so people know if they're like, what should I take, or they need to come and get something, I usually have it. So, so this is what you want to take in some of these as just to keep your immune system up. So the things you want to take just off the cuff, vitamin D, right? You want to be taking some probiotics here and there to make sure things are in balance, and probably a multivitamin. Now, to bump up your immune system or just empower it more, because you can't make it work stronger than it can, but you can make sure you're removing the barriers. So you want to, zinc, you can take occasionally as we go into this colder season. And you can also, you know, the probiotics, and you can also go with the B vitamins, and then keep your olive leaf extract and oil of oregano and apple cider vinegar on hand. So, and I would take some extra vitamin C as we go into this colder season. You can just put it in your smoothie. If you don't like capsules, you can break those things right open and put the powder right in, or you can get a powdered vitamin C. So you should be good to go. Now, if you end up coming in contact with coronavirus and now you have it, you should definitely be taking all of these things, okay? And you should also be taking like a tea. I like green tea. I like, they have a green tea, a super antioxidant green tea is very helpful. Just hot tea, herbal tea, and make sure it's real tea and not tea flavored stuff, which they do a lot, that it's real tea leaf. You want to be taking that as well. And then get lots and lots and lots of sleep. So let's say for whatever reason you end up with coronavirus and you have some symptoms and you're not able to breathe. So, you know, obviously the hospital is an option, but some people are able to, so if you need to go to the hospital, go to the hospital. This should not take the place of medical treatment. Saying if you are at home and you're feeling this fluid buildup, which is one of the things that happens when coronavirus has run its course and is creating fluid in your chest, and you're having a very hard time breathing because of all this excess fluid, which is a problem because then bacteria starts to form and all that. You can help your body drain it out by gravity, basically. So leaning, you know, stacking up some towels and leaning on your side. Okay, so your lungs are in your back, right? So if you're laying on your back, you're going to have a much harder time breathing if you have fluid in your lungs and you're laying on your back. So that's really the last thing you want to do if you're having a hard time breathing. So laying on your side, like this first picture has, will help the fluid kind of shift. And then you lay on your other side, and then you should be able to cough up a lot of this phlegm and fluid out. So you want to, so shifting from one side and then to the other kind of helps things move and you can get it out. And that's important because we want to get this fluid out of your body. Also, obviously laying at an incline, which you probably need some towels or blankets or something so that your bottom half is higher than your top half, so the fluid is coming out. That's what the first picture is showing here. The second picture is another technique for draining, and that's putting enough towels to form a pyramid so that your fluid is draining out of your body, and then you can then cough it up. What would also be good is if you could have somebody tap on your back, or you have like a shower brush or something to tap yourself to loosen up these the mucus and fluid that's stuck. So, you know, like across your back, so that you can loosen it up and cough it out is really important, because this can be very critical if you're like, I seriously can't breathe. So these are some techniques that you could use, you know, before you go to the hospital, or maybe you won't have to go. So either you have the towels, and then this last option here is with a chair. If you don't have enough towels, you can use a chair like this. Just be safe and careful. But it's basically to get the fluid draining out of your system, out of your lungs, so that you can cough it up and out. And that can save your life in some instances. So we don't want to just be feeling helpless here. There are some techniques that are tried and true that people have been using, and they use some of these in the hospitals in respiratory therapy to help loosen fluid, is by massaging the back, dot, 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 dot. And like I said, if you're by yourself, get something and do it yourself. Even if this is all you can do, it's going to help, and that, like that, just to get it out. So you just have to be in fighting mode and not acquiesce to, oh God, I can't breathe. How can I breathe? We want to find a way. And these are techniques that you can find a way to fight through it. And also to take very deep breaths too, because a lot of people were saying it hurts to breathe, but that's when you have to just work through it and take deep, deep breaths, a lot of in and then push it out. You really have to breathe actually through this thing when you feel like you can't breathe. So that's very important. And I just would, I think people who are dealing with this oftentimes at home, sometimes are having better outcomes than the hospital. And that's because sometimes they're using the respiratory machines that I've been told, there are a lot of researchers, they're not the best treatment for this, because what's happening is when you're on a respirator, it's basically forcing air into your lungs. But if your lungs are full of fluid, forcing air in there isn't really all that helpful, right? But if you can get the fluid out and then have some help breathing, then you're in a better shape. So I'm not telling anyone not to go to the hospital, so don't take it as that. I'm just saying, try to get some of this fluid out of your body if you're having a hard time breathing, and then you decide if you need to get to the hospital or not. So just giving you options, the things that you can do at home to take care of yourself, because a lot of times people are going to the hospital with coronavirus and they're like, until you can't breathe, don't come back, so just go home and handle it yourself. And then people don't know what to do themselves. They're saying, until it's critical, don't come. That's what they've been telling people. So this is what you can do. You can take your supplements. You can get plenty of sleep. Don't sleep on your back. Get the back massage as well as you can to get this stuff up, and take lots of fluid. Hot fluids are good. If you have a sauna, that's great. Making your own little home sauna can be helpful too. So you want to make sure when you're doing your home saunas, and by home saunas, you can put your feet in a very hot like bucket or something, and then put a blanket over your head and put some lemon and apple cider vinegar, and if you have like Vicks Vapor Rub, something that's like opening up. Eucalyptus drops are better actually, but and putting that over, that helps get all of this mucus up and out. So so some other things that you can do, we'll just go through this list. I mentioned the deep breathing, very important to get stale air out and fresh air in. Open a window if it's not smoky. Hopefully the smoke situation will be gone. If you have an air purifier, even better. Doing the lung clearing method I just showed you, says lungs, but lungs. And then hot and cold therapy is something that also helps drain mucus and things from your body. So hot and cold therapy is meaning you're putting your face in or body in very warm to hot water and then getting in very cold water. So one way you can do that is take a hot bath and then take a cold shower in that same tub, or you could get a very hot, bowl of hot water, not over 110 degrees, so you don't burn your face or hands or anything like that. And then get a bowl of ice water with ice in it, and you put your face in this hot water for about 45 seconds, and then right into the cold water for about 30 to 40 seconds, and take it out for a minute and repeat that like 5 times. That causes drainage. You should start draining right away. That's helped with not just things like viruses, but it's also helped with infections like sinus infections and things like that, that people have been able to get rid of those infections just by doing this hot and cold therapy. These are tried and true old school remedies that never stop working, that we should still be using today. So getting out, and I'll say also with the hot and cold therapy, you can take like a very warm bath too, um, and just make sure it's not so hot that you burn or faint or anything like that. And then take a cool shower. It doesn't have to be ice cold, but a cool shower to close your pores. And then go to bed, sleep, 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 and drink lots of water with some vitamins in it. Then sunlight and walking are very important because you need that circulation. You can't just stay dormant. Now, if you're too weak to walk or something, just try to walk a little bit in the house. But if you can get out, get your sunlight and get walking for circulation. We already talked about sleeping is when the body does its repair work. So you got to get that. And no TV or radio or anything on when you're sleeping. It just needs to be silent and quiet and dark. So, and put the phones as far away as possible or turn them off. And then be happy, laugh, watch a funny movie, tell a funny story. Laughter is actually healing because it creates endorphins and things that help the body heal. So being in a good mood, put any nasty moods aside and decide to be happy, even if you're sick, because you will get well better. Don't be a grumpy sick person. That's never helpful. So be nice, be thankful, be kind, and you will actually heal quicker and better. You want to reduce your stress and worry. So I know, there's a lot of fear mongering still on TV. I have not watched the news in months because I refuse to just be inundated with death rates and the mania. So you want to put your worry and stress aside. This is where you lean on your faith and know that you're going to be okay. Because stress and worry suppress the immune system. So, and who wants to be stressed and worried? It's not any fun either. So you want to put that aside. Let's see, and then finally, as I mentioned, mood. Have a good mood, and when you eat more fruits and veggies, it's a lot easier to have a good mood. It just is. When you eat an apple, you kind of feel good. At least I do. So try that. There was a study that showed in Great Britain that there's a relationship between daily servings of fruits and vegetables and happiness. I mean, I didn't need a study to know that, but it's out there. So the more of the fruits and veggies they ate, the happier they were. People who ate up to 7 to 8 servings were happier a day, were the happiest and the most satisfied. So it's a great thing that the healthy food not only heals your body, but makes you feel good too. Isn't that wonderful? Something to be grateful for. And it tastes good. So, allow your taste buds to change to the good stuff. Be happy. And it's probably because when you're eating 7 to 8 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, you're very regular. Okay. When you're regular, you're happy. When you're constipated, not so much. You're very grouchy and very crabby. So I'm like, I feel like we should take some veggies to Congress and get people, flowing. You see again. So eat your fruits and veggies so you can be regular, so you can feel good, and that you can be happy and have a very strong immune system, and you can get through this whole pandemic thing very quickly. So, and easily and without all the worries, and know that you have tools in your toolkit to make it through this and not to be worried. If you need recipes to make your fruits and veggies taste good and your whole grains, you can go to my website, which is rubylathon.com. Plenty of recipes, plenty of videos, plenty of everything. And then if you need personal consultations, I do that too and put together personalized plans for dealing with whatever illness or things that you're dealing with, or if you're trying to just go transition to a plant-based diet. I have online programs for that as well. So So check those out. Do what you have to do to get your diet in order, because what you're doing here to stay well will actually help you heal other pre-existing conditions, which will put you even in a better place to not succumb to this virus because of a pre-existing condition. So the things that's going to keep you well will also help reverse these other illnesses. I think I shared this with you all before. Every Monday night we have a call, a wellness call with myself and a physician, Dr. Watkins. So you can jot this number down, 712-770-5603. This is also on the bottom of my website, so you can just go to rubylathon.com anytime and see this number and our access code. Every Monday night, we cover a different topic, and you can ask questions about whatever topic. So it's a service that we do. So, and you can get on my e-news list to know things that are coming your way. So that concludes this presentation piece. So I'm happy to take some questions at this point. So I will stop the screen share and open it up for Q&A. It looks like we got a nice new crowd come in since I started. So I think, I don't know how you're going to do Q&A, if we're going to type it in or people are just going to unmute or what.
They can unmute and ask questions. They can
Okay.
send a chat. I was sitting here trying to figure out how to raise a hand, but *9 will raise a hand by the phone.
Yeah, I've seen the raise your hand thing. I think we have to, not exactly sure how to do that.
I should have looked earlier, but
Yeah. But yeah, so you can either unmute or or type it in the chat. I can see the chat either way.
right.
Okay, here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way to really tell if you got just the common flu or corona?
I don't think there's unless you get tested. That's what's going to be tricky this flu season, because everybody who gets the flu is probably going to think they have corona. So, with the flu, you tend not to get the so much that you can't breathe issue that comes with coronavirus. So, more the tightness in the chest, that's more of a symptom of coronavirus than the flu. Where the flu is more, you're generally going to start with a fever and it builds up, So you're going to be treating them very much the same though.
Before we go any further, those that are on by phone, *6 will unmute yourself. *6.
Okay.
Are you finished, Steve?
I am.
Okay.
Dr. Ruby, there are quite few ladies that are dealing with thyroid problems. And you talked about that. What are some of the things that they could do? A lot of them may not know that they have cancer as of yet, but they see the symptoms of the thyroid. What can they do to improve and get better? I do know, like you said, eating right is one of the best things, because food is medicine. So could you explain that to some of the people that may need to hear that?
Yeah. So there aren't a lot of symptoms that show themselves for thyroid cancer. So just because you have hypo or hyperthyroid doesn't mean you're going to get thyroid cancer at all. They're really not related that way. So you can kind of let go of that fear if you have hyper or hypothyroid. So if you do have hyper or hypothyroid or an enlarged thyroid, you want to look at anti-inflammatory things. So a lot of the things that I just talked about are things you want to be eating, the leafy greens and ginger and things like that help bring down inflammation. They're depending on, if you're hyperthyroid, green juices are really good for that because it helps slow down the thyroid a little bit. So green juices are great for hyper, not good for hypo. You want to do smoothies and things if you are hypo, but you don't want to be taking lots of green juice because it does the opposite of what you want. So also, you know, the exercise, meditation, relaxing helps when you're dealing with hypo and hyper, reducing stress. Usually gut health is important dealing with the thyroid because they're very closely related. So probiotics are good, exercise, stretching, you know, reducing stress. And then there are some, you know, herbs and things that help with that too. It just depends, you know, what particular issue you're dealing with. So I don't like to throw them out without kind of being in full context. But ashwagandha, for example, is one that's very good for the thyroid. Cucumbers, avocado, thyroid likes those things. And then some people, you know, if they're dealing with hypo, sometimes gluten is an issue. So going gluten-free for a while tends to help with that as well. And then making sure you're staying low on sugar and those kind of things. So there's a lot of little things you can do, but starting with the whole food plant-based diet is the way to go to begin with.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone, any other questions? Well, I have some.
Okay.
We'll probably go back a little ways where we were talking about sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify some of the things that some of us think. One of the things that I heard you say was dried fruit is not good for you. And I'd like to hear a little discussion of why that might be, because we're one of those that eat some dried fruit. We like dried mangoes.
Mm-hmm.
And but I also put maple syrup in my tea. What's the relationship with maple syrup and sugar, and should we not be doing that?
Sure. Okay. Good question. So dried fruit is okay in limited amounts. What I was saying is that if you're feeling sick, that's not what you want to eat is dried fruit because the sugar is concentrated in dried fruit. But if you're healthy and you're eating dried fruit in place of dessert, that's great. You know, have at it. You can do that. But if you're dealing like with a weight issue or you're feeling sick, you don't want to do dried fruit. Like dates are considered dried fruit, but a few of those, one or two in a smoothie is okay because you're combining it with greens and proteins and everything else. It slows down that sugar absorption. So usually if you're doing dried fruit, a few nuts with it to slow down the sugar absorption is also a good idea. But dried fruit is okay if you're fine. If you're healthy, good weight, and you just want something a little sweet, it's okay. So as far as the maple syrup is a good sweetener, but you just have to be limited with it. I mean, I try to tell people to learn to drink their teas and things without sweeteners. So I would just start cutting back on it some. It's not bad, but it's not necessary. It's not great either. You know, anytime sugar is still sugar, you know, you just don't want to have too much of it. So having a little bit in your tea is fine, but I would just start cutting back on it and not using very much and just learning to like the taste of the tea by itself.
And add honey to that.
Honey is pretty much in the same category as maple syrup, raw honey, not processed honey, raw honey. So, and when we talk about maple syrup, it's got to be pure maple syrup, none of this processed stuff. So raw honey, pretty much in the same category as maple syrup, just using a little bit and not a lot. But if you're sick, I wouldn't be using any sweeteners.
Now, doesn't your body want to convert like cantaloupe, watermelon, honeydew to sugar? And is there certain times of the day you should not be taking those fruits?
So, you know, according to some philosophies, morning time is the best time for fruits and things like that. But it doesn't necessarily convert them to sugar. I mean, it does in a sense, but they're full of fiber and lots of water. So it's not the same as having a teaspoon of sugar and having a watermelon. It's just not the same thing because your body's going to take up dilute it with all that water and then all of the fiber that comes with that, and then all the antioxidants offsets any sugar component, so it's in the right balance of it. So you should absolutely eat all of those melons that you just mentioned. And in the morning is great. Sometimes you can do a cleanse with watermelon. That's how refreshing it is. So it's one of the best things you can eat. So yeah, so don't stay away from fruit. Nobody gains weight from fruit. People don't get sick from fruit. It's fruit is in its perfect form.
Mm.
Any more questions? Okay, I have another one. First of all,
Mhm.
I am an ex-dairyman, so it is,
You're what?
I am an ex-dairyman. I used to have my own dairy.
Oh, okay.
So when you're telling us that dairy is a foreign substance, it was a time I couldn't agree. But I am also one of those that will tell you not to eat dairy anymore.
Right, right, absolutely.
One of the things that really got me off of dairy completely is the understanding of the alkaline acidity or alkaline acid residue that you talked about. And one of the things that we learn in farming is an alkaline soil is not a good soil. You need an acidic soil to grow the bacteria that decomposes the plant material. Is that the same in the body? Can bacteria exist in an alkaline environment?
Not really. So that's what they found, is that the more alkaline your body is, the harder it is for disease and illnesses to flourish. So when you're more alkaline, then it's very difficult. But when you're more acidic, it's easy. So it kind of follows what you're saying in the body. And we are essentially kind of plants in a way, we are what we eat. So it's not surprising that that would follow along those lines.
Yeah, that's what convinced me when I learned that and if I could determine the
Mm-hmm.
alkaline acidity in my body, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I could stave off bacteria and
Absolutely.
diseases. Yes, and so
Yeah, and I think for me, what got me off of the dairy was just that understanding of um, how the body responds to dairy in the body, with treating it as the foreign substance that it is. And just, I had never thought about it before. I thought, well, I'm vegetarian, so I'm not killing the cow to get the milk, so I'm not hurting any animals. But you absolutely are hurting the animals when you look into the way dairy is produced. It is one of the most disgusting processes and cruel processes that I've seen. And I think if more people knew how terrible it is, then they would start to turn away from it too. So not only is it really bad for your body and causes cancer to grow because it has estrogen and hormones in it, but because of the way it's produced, it has a lot of pus in it. And there's an amount of pus that's allowed per gallon or whatever amount of milk, because it's just known that it's going to be in there. And that pus is going to be in there because the cows are milked incessantly, unnaturally, around the clock, as opposed to if they naturally had a baby cow and let it grow up, cow wouldn't get pregnant again until it was time. But they milk these cows for their whole life, nonstop, impregnating them forcibly, artificially, over and over and over again, until it's spent in 5 years, and they chop it up for meat. And when a cow would live, 20 plus years, these cows are overworked so badly, they only can make it till about 5 years. And like I said, every time they have the little calf, they take it away. And when I heard about this one town where they did this repeatedly all the time at the same time, where the cows would just moo and cry for their babies because they'd take them away all at the same time. They sent out a notice to the town to say nothing is wrong, it's just the cows are crying for for their stolen calves. So it'll be over in a few days. I mean, that's pretty horrendous. So I was like, I don't want to be a part of a system that treats living animals that way. And then their udders crack and pus, and it's gross. It's very gross, very
Yeah.
cruel. And I want no parts of that. So even if it wasn't terrible for my body, I wouldn't participate in that system. And that's what has to happen for you to get your ice cream and milk and all these other things when there are like 100 plant-based alternatives for ice cream. Even Ben and Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs has vegan ice cream now. So there's really zero excuse to still be participating in the dairy industry.
Now, a couple weeks ago, we had a speaker that was advising us to not take more than 2,000 units of D3. There seems to be different doctors have different opinions.
Yeah. I've studied D3 a lot, read a whole book about just D3 and all of that. And so you can take pretty high amounts of D3 without it being toxic to your body. Yeah, the recommended from I've seen, I mean, the standard recommended daily allowance is only about 500 to 1,000, which is way too low. It's just enough to keep you alive. But all of the studies that I show and the things that I've read say 5,000, and there are some supplements that give it to you in a 5,000 amount unit. But you can also go in next time you get your blood work done and see what your levels are at taking 2,000 and then bumping it up to maybe 5,000. So you want to be anywhere between 40 and 100, and the closer to 100 you are, I forget the units, but on the blood test, that better you are, the more protected you are. So, so I mean, I would at least take 2,000, but at a minimum, but to 5,000. And when people are sick, we've recommended 10 to 20,000 a day when dealing with cancer. So. And usually if people are deficient, they give you a 50,000 unit capsule to take once a week. So to get your levels up pretty quickly. But just from what I have studied multiple times, that it's not toxic at high levels. You know, you don't want to take super high levels without taking like vitamin K with it. So I usually give people a vitamin D3 that has a vitamin K in it. But everybody's different, so I can't just throw out recommendations, because if you're on a blood thinner, you don't need vitamin K. You shouldn't take vitamin K. So, but 2,000 to 5,000 should be fine. And then you should test your blood levels next time you have blood work done and make sure your levels are adequate.
How many milligrams of vitamin C a day should you have?
You can do quite a bit of vitamin C because it's what's called water soluble. So your body will excrete any excess that you don't need. So it's not really toxic. So it depends on you know, what you're dealing with in terms of how much you should take. I think it's around 1,000, if I recall, is kind of lower level when you're trying to boost your immune system a bit. So yeah, you can take quite a bit of vitamin C, but I think it's around 1,000 milligrams.
Yeah, I take Costco vitamins. I don't know if those are the best to take.
Probably not. I'd probably just say that. Yeah. So
Kirkland brand.
yeah, I bet it has magnesium stearate, and a lot of vitamins do, but the higher quality ones don't, and you just have to do a little more searching for it. And then again, like I said, if there's any food coloring, it's just trash that, because food coloring is a neurotoxin. You just don't want any fake food colorings in your system.
There was going back to D3, there was two questions on that. Folks that look like me get more vitamin D3 from the sun than people that look like you.
Right, right.
And some of the discussion that was had 2 weeks ago were from people that look like me. And so that might have been some of
There is a discrepancy there, and sometimes they're not taking that into account. I've had that same discussion when I was on a panel with everybody else what didn't look like me. So, and I had to bring up the point that, you know, 20 minutes a day for lighter skinned folks gets them quite a bit of the sun they need. But if you're my complexion or darker, you need more like 45 minutes or more to get enough sunlight, and you need to have a lot of skin exposure. So you can't be wearing a long sleeve shirt and pants and thinking you're getting great sunlight. So you need to be wearing shorts and a short sleeve tank, tank almost to really be getting enough sunlight that way. And so and spending a significant amount of time. So that's why it's just recommended for everybody. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't get the sunlight. You should still get outside because it also has other effects of mood and everything else that you need. And the sun is very healing too.
Hold on.
Oh,
This is Brother Derek.
Mhm.
I just want to say this to everybody that's listening. We don't want Tom and Steve to be the only two people that's talking to Dr. Ruby. Don't be afraid, because that's why she's here to answer your question. So feel free to ask her any question that you have, no matter what that's the reason she's on. And to answer your questions, and that you can get answers for what you need, that you can get better, or just for knowledge sake. So I just want to encourage you, ask her some questions. This is the time.
Thank
Okay.
you, Derek. I'm waiting to ask.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Dr. Ruby, I want to know, I've asked this question before of others, and I just wanted to get your opinion. For those of us who have a struggle with letting go of sugar, I understand that it's detrimental to the system, to the immune system. There's really no need for it. But there's some of us who are highly addicted to this. What do you recommend? How do you recommend making the break?
Well, first, just don't have it in the house, honestly. That's step one. So, most people aren't going to leave the house at like 9 o'clock and go to the grocery store to get sweets. So, and we're usually eating them late at night. So, we really have to set yourself up for success by not having it in the house. Or if you live with somebody who can eat it sparingly, they need to hide it from you or something. So that's number one. Um, the other thing is having like a smoothie for dinner or right after dinner that's on the sweeter side can really help with that too, because it takes care of the sugar craving in a healthy way. And then the third one is really to make sure you're very well hydrated, because lack of water makes you crave sweets a lot of times. And it also makes you more hungry than you think you are. So, if you're very well hydrated, and that's about half your body weight in ounces of water, if you stay hydrated, and that cuts the sugar craving too. And then making sure you're getting lots of fruit in also helps, because it just takes care of the sweetness factor.
And also having the knowledge to know that sugar is just like cocaine, one element from being like cocaine. So you want to get off of drugs. A lot of us are addicted to sugar, just like somebody addicted to cocaine. So we have to process in our mind, we don't want that. And that's another way to get away from it.
Right. And then that's true. And then looking at the healthy sweets that you can do, like I make like brownies with walnuts and dates and cacao powder, which are actually really healthy. Doing like banana ice cream with banana and other fruit like banana and mango, is very sweet, but it's healthy sugar, then that's a better option to replace the regular sweets with white sugar. And then just don't buy anything that's just got straight up white sugar. It's hard to break addiction from white sugar if you keep eating it.
That's right.
And
Great.
it's even
Thank you.
and it's even in jams and jellies.
Right. You want to get those that are just naturally sweetened. So you really have to read the label on those and just make sure you're getting really clean food.
Going back to D3 for one more question, Dr. Ruby, you talked about a plant-based D3. I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah, because most of the D3 is made like from sheep's lanolin or something. So you can get a plant-derived version of that is vegan and not taken from the sheep.
Hmm.
So if it doesn't say vegan D3, it's usually made from the lanolin.
Synthetic then.
Yeah. Yeah, from the sheep. So that would be, yeah, you can definitely find the plant-based ones
Wow.
in the store.
Okay.
And make sure it's D3 because they have a lot of D2 that's vegan, but it's not the same as D3. So it should be D3, vegan D3.
And speaking of D3 and B12, should that be cyanocobalamin or methylcobalamin?
Yeah, there's a big debate on that. I had kind of settled on the methylcobalamin based on what I've researched. So that's my preference. It supposedly uptakes better and things like that. So, I mean, either it's going to be okay, but just from what I've researched, the methylcobalamin is better uptake. It's uptaken better.
Now, should that be, is that derived by yeast or is that derived synthetically?
I can't remember. It's just the different way that it's processed. So, yeah, I don't remember that it was what it's derived from is the issue. But yeah, I don't recall. I just remember that I settled on it after a long study of trying to figure out which one I should take. Yeah.
Dr. Ruby,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there are nights that you have people that going through stress and everything. What can you tell them what they could take to not just lay in the bed in the dark and your mind running all over town?
Mm-hmm.
You know, should they take a sleep aid or anything, a natural sleep aid? I know we know about melatonin, but some people have a little difficulties. I just want to ask about that because I I know that people do that, you know, and they don't know how to go to sleep. They get into bed and they can't go to sleep. I know exercise would be one good thing to help.
Yeah, so exercise definitely helps. Um, the other thing that helps, valerian root is another one that helps.
Mhm.
But you don't want to be dependent upon those. I mean, you can take those like very temporary.
Mhm.
Um, so we want to get to the root cause of why you're having sleep problems.
Mhm.
So water is one, exercise is another, having a bedtime routine is another, not eating very late is another help. Um, having like a method of like de-stress and a habit of going through a gratefulness list before you go to bed kind of shifts you from worry to, peacefulness. Those things actually work, you know. So you got to make sure you've expended enough energy so that you're tired so you can go to sleep, and not just stress energy but actual physical energy. So that's important. And then making sure you're not drinking anything with caffeine late in the day or at all, really. um,
Mhm.
those kind of things help. And then if there's some emotional things we have to deal with, then we got to deal with those too. Like talk it out, let it go, whatever it is we got to do, deal with it.
Right.
Do- Are there any more questions here?
Oh, and keeping the room cool and dark. It's hard to sleep when it's warm and, too warm in the room.
Yeah. Another question this is just what, how would, let's see, how am I going to answer this? With everything that we're hearing tonight, if you're on medication and working with a doctor, what should you do? Or what should they do?
So, you should start making these changes that we've talked about to get yourself off of it. And so then you should work with your doctor and have a checkup in, let's say, 30, 45 days after you've made some of these changes and see where you are. And then let them know if your things have improved that you want to step down from this
That's right.
ASAP. And so they can start recommending whether to cut it in half or how much and that kind of thing. So you don't want to really take yourself off of it until you have some numbers that show that you should.
How fast can, for instance, moving from a standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet affect your blood pressure, affect diabetes, et cetera? And especially if they're on medication.
It depends. So diabetes sometimes is 2 weeks. Other things is 30 days making the switch. So it can be, very fast. It can be a month or two, but usually you start seeing some changes within a month.
So definitely work with your physician.
Yeah. I mean, I would say so, because you just don't want to say, oh, I'm feeling good and my blood pressure is down, and it's not. So I mean, a lot of people have those machines at home so they can check it themselves, which would be a good thing to do. And then you could call your doctor and say, my blood pressure's, X, this number now, has been for the last 2 weeks. And then they could advise you, okay, step down by this much or whatever, that kind of thing. So you have to have the numbers to back it up, because you don't want to be, in a dangerous situation.
I've been doing a little experimenting, kind of eating different foods, and I notice, me personally, about 24 to 48 hours later, if I have ate something wrong, my blood pressure will go up then. Is that normal, or?
Yeah, that can happen. It can be delayed, for sure, as it works its way through your system. So I could see that happening. I mean, usually with blood pressure, you kind of see it sooner, but it could take that long to process. Yep. So then you kind of got to get more sensitive, and then knowing how your body responds is a good thing. Know what to avoid.
Well, Dr. Ruby, we know it's about 10:30 where you
Mhm.
are. We don't want to wear you out. It seems like there are no more questions right now.
Okay.
But I just want to tell the audience that you'll be back on tomorrow at 6
Mhm.
again. And if they have questions, write them down so they can ask you questions. Also, you'll be back Saturday, Sabbath at 11 o'clock. So can we just ask you, what are some of the things you may be speaking on Saturday
And Friday.
and Friday?
Okay. So on Sabbath, we're going to be talking about the simple things. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Naaman. And on Friday, tonight we kind of covered, building your immunity. Tomorrow we're going to be just talking about more principles of healthy living and what that looks like.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If there are no more questions.
Well, we need to point out that on Sabbath, on Saturday at 11 o'clock, we will be seeing Ruby. There will not be a question and answer period.
Right.
Yeah, so make sure we come tomorrow with our questions that will carry us through until we see her again.
Exactly.
I got one little final tech note that I recommend everybody reboot their computer 30 minutes before one of these presentations. Ruby was coming through kind of garbled at the beginning of this. I don't know if that was her computer or the internet, but if everybody just reboots their computer 30 minutes before they join one of these sessions, that
Okay.
helps.
That's a
get
good
rid of-
idea. Yeah.
No
Okay.
more questions? Okay, let's have a word of prayer. We're going to let Sister Ruby get ready for night. And we just thank her for being here, this presentation. We thank you, Dr. Ruby,
You're
so
welcome.
much. Father in heaven, we thank you for how you are giving us the wisdom, the knowledge that we need, and the understanding to keep us alive and to be healthy while we're alive. We thank you for Dr. Ruby. We thank you for every person that's on the line. Even if they didn't ask a question, we know that they heard something that they can benefit from. So we just ask that you give Dr. Ruby a good night's rest to come back tomorrow evening. And we thank you and we thank all the people that participated. Amen.
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 And tomorrow night, it is the same link as you used tonight, the same phone number that you used tonight. So, and if you have any friends that you think could benefit from listening to Dr. Ruby, please pass the word. Because we have a lot more room on the Zoom call than what we have filled right now. So,
All right.
Dr. Ruby,
Great, great.
thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Great. Thank you.
Good
All right.
night,
Well,
all.
have a great night, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
We
All
look
right.
forward to it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.